show up and make them stop. Wanna know my name so badly, close it, I'ma change the game.
Hi everyone, this is Anna. Welcome back to ChillCast, formerly known as Anna and Yaoyao's Talk. Today we have the pleasure to have Huma's co-founder Erbil join us. So I'll turn it over to Erbil for now for an introduction, and then we'll jump into Huma.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you everybody for listening in. And I guess happy belated Lunar New Year to everybody. And thank you for inviting me.
As many of you know, Huma is the pioneer in PayFi projects on Solana. A lot of us have discussed what PayFi is, including myself. I did an episode in Mandarin a while ago. Would love to hear from the OGs. In your words, can you describe what does PayFi mean to you and how is Huma a PayFi project?
And my answer might differ a little bit from what has been written about PayFi and what people talk about PayFi. I think originally when the term PayFi was first coined, it was describing payment financing. And payment financing is something that we do have in our daily lives quite often. If you use a credit card, that card is financing a payment between you and the merchant. $16 trillion of payments are processed that way. If you're involved in merchant-to-merchant business, then all the invoices, especially cross-border invoices, in supply chain get financed. That's called trade finance, about $10 trillion. And then there's a whole, remittance, cross-border payment use cases that has, the financing element come in as a pre-funding in the extent of like $4 trillion or more. So all of these are describing what payment financing is, and PayFi is understood as the version of it that utilizes blockchain and stablecoins at its core. To me, PayFi is a bit broader than that. It really describes everything that the blockchain, especially Bitcoin, was built for. Processing payments in a trustless, decentralized manner. Utilizing, a new type of asset that is also, trustless and decentralized. And to me, when you actually put stablecoins, blockchain technologies, and programmable money all together, the amount of use cases that you can create with it is so much more than what we understand from payment financing in the traditional sense. So to me, it's something broader, and we are, only scratching the surface at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Recently, I was at the Ondo summit and discussing with somebody, actually one guy who's building kind of in the PayFi space too. He said that the first conferences 20, 30 years ago on the internet, people were talking about how the internet enables sending mail for free. And that was the extent of people's understanding of the internet. And now it's like, you can do everything. Information moves at the speed of light. So I totally agree with that. I think we've scratched the surface, and a lot of people, a lot of builders in the space are viewing blockchain and stablecoins the same way they viewed payments, the same way they viewed finance, with a Web2, like a traditional lens. There's so much more to explore once we enable value and money to move and at the speed of light, similar to information.
Actually, I love that analogy. A lot of times when I think about the internet of money and evolution of internet of money, I think about as, a parallel evolution to internet of data, right? Because when internet was first founded and this OSI model was, put in place, people understood internet of data as something within the context they were thinking about use case at the time, which was like, how do I send mail? How do I send messages around? How do I send, a short message? And that was the context of data. And today, we're using internet of data for everything, right? Like even this AI revolution, people would have zero access to it if we didn't have internet of data. Like we are transferring intelligence, on fiber, right? Like this is the extent that those use cases have evolved to something that's like transforming the whole economy. And what I think PayFi is going to do to the internet of money is going to be very similar. And right now, we're only seeing it from the lens of the use cases that we know and use, but it's going to have a similar impact on once we actually really build the rails for internet of money, and money moves freely in a programmatic way. The whole finance and economy is going to look very, very different, and how we trade and how we transact is going to look very different than how it is today.
Exactly. So I think this might be a good segue into what ARF does and what is pre-funding. So pre-funding as a concept has been built on a proof-based payment system, not trust-based. And because of traditional payment rails limitations, has been a very expensive requirement for a lot of payment companies. So for context to the audience, Huma a while ago actually merged with ARF, two of the leading both PayFi companies, so now they're one team. And I would like to dig deeper into what ARF does, and then we can go talk about like how ARF is synergistic with Huma.
First, let's describe ARF as the global payments liquidity platform. In a traditional sense, the way the money moves globally, and especially like remittance and cross-border payments happen, is both trust and proof-based. Actually, it's not just one; it's both. It's both trust-based and proof-based. And I'll tell you an anecdote. 2 weeks ago, I was in Turkey for Catstanbul. We were co-hosting the Catstanbul event, and I ended up spending 1 month just pulling everything together. I'm originally from Istanbul, even though I live in the US. I was sitting down with one of our media partners over there, and they were telling me that they have some payments coming from the US, Western Union. And when they walked into Western Union told them, we don't have money right now. This is how cross-border payments work. This is the largest network. This is the most funded, largest cross-border payment network in the world, Western Union. And you walk into, a Western Union branch and they tell you, we're sorry, we don't have money right now. So the pre-funding comes from, this becoming an acute need across the world, where when you actually try to send money, the money doesn't physically go to, the destination. If I'm sending money from US to Mexico, from US to Turkey, the money doesn't physically travel. So the networks, the companies that are, in the business of sending money cross borders, needs to pre-fund the corridor being, US Turkey. They need to go and fund a lot of accounts in Turkey so that the people who are trying to receive the money can receive the money using those pre-funded bank accounts. So I have, hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of bank accounts all around the world that are pre-funded based on my usual volume. And anytime I'm over my usual volume, there's not enough money in the system to actually settle the payment. And I had to do this, in so many places, in so many different currencies, and that costs this cross-border payments industry $4 trillion locked in. Think about how capital inefficient this whole thing is locked into this, bank accounts. And a lot of times the money is not enough. They need to go and source working capital, they need to go and source, USD loans or fiat loans in the local currency. And that is a huge burden on these businesses. What if you remove this whole thing? If you told these businesses, you can use a single global USDC pool, a liquidity pool. Anytime you want to settle between US and Mexico, US and Turkey, you can actually settle using this liquidity pool, USDC pool on chain. And your distribution partners, so if I'm like Western Union US, my partners Western Union Turkey can access this capital immediately to disperse that, either in fiat or whatever the currency they deem in digital format, if they're using an app or a kiosk or something like that. So ARF is basically providing this like singular global liquidity pool that so many of these global remittance players can tap into to settle payments literally the same day, instantly, on demand, without needing to use all these pre-funding accounts. So it saves them so much capital, right? It saves them this $4 trillion. It's super capital efficient because they only use USDC, they only use stablecoins to settle, and they all use the same exact liquidity pool, which means you can actually create a very high turnover on this liquidity pool. And even if they are paying like a very small amount, right? They charge 3%, 4%, sometimes 5%. Even if they only paid, 8 basis points, 10 basis points for utilizing this global liquidity pool, because the capital turns over so often, you can generate 20% yield on this or more.
It's a really good explanation of saying when you have so much movement and capital velocity, the yield naturally goes up, and
That's
it's
right.
more efficient for everybody. Double clicking on this, can you elaborate on why USDC in particular, and how does the flow of funds work? So let's say are you tapping into because the banks, if the end goal is a fiat last mile payment, like let's say some of our audiences here may do import export or they run like international businesses, they have fiat and then they want to send fiat from like Macau to, I don't know, Portugal. How does the inter-correspondent banking system work for pre-funding? So do you need the banks themselves to accept USDC as collateral, as valid collateral?
No, we don't. That's the beauty of it. So actually, we can work as an alternative to SWIFT, right? Like in the SWIFT network, SWIFT is an information network, first of all. It doesn't necessarily transfer the money, it transfers the money information, the accounting information from one account to another account, and usually they have correspondence banks that are in charge of moving USDs and euros, and they are tied to a specific USD account that is managing the liquidity in between these operations. And SWIFT unfortunately doesn't work in so many different use cases, and a lot of times money gets lost in SWIFT. Money gets blocked because of some stupid policy reasons. Sometimes in the intermittent banking, correspondence banking layer, sometimes at the destination banking layer, sometimes the account names and account numbers get messed up. So there's a lot of problems with SWIFT. So what we do is a complete alternative to the SWIFT network, where we work with the enterprises who needs to settle, right? So we have the sending institution and the receiving institution. The sending institution batches all the payments that they have, and they already have these payments made in fiat, right? So I walked into the Western Union branch, I walked into a kiosk, I used my Wise app or whatever your favorite cross-border app. I already sent the money in fiat. Now the money is in fiat, but they need to settle with their partners in USDC. So they actually sent us a payment order, a payment financing order. This is the PayFi transaction. The payment financing order says that I'm Western Union. Again, I'm just like using these brand names for ease of understanding. I'm gonna send to my partner in Mexico $1 million. Please distribute. And that partner is already in the system in terms of their destination wallet address, or their brokered account, or their OTC, or their exchange account, so that the money settles in USDC with that partner. And that partner is very happy receiving USDC because for them it's actually better to receive capital in USDC versus the fiat. A lot of distribution partners, one of their big risks actually is the FX risk. They're taking FX risk with the origination partner, even though they settle on the price. It takes some time for them to do the FX operations, and that's costly. So they are very happy to receive USDC, and then they can distribute that in the fiat if they want, or they can distribute it by off-ramping the USDC. The reason why we used USDC for the past two and a half years is, one, Circle is a very important partner of ours. We launched with Circle, being a strategic partner and investor. So Circle has been always with us, and we're very close to that team. Number two, we wanted to provide the service to financial institutions as big as banks, and as big as Amazon's payments department, and they need to be very comfortable with the compliance and regulatory aspects of the payment medium and the currency that you use. And USDC by far is the most legitimate, most compliant currency, stable currency across the globe. So there's an effect of it in terms of institutional buy-in. And the last thing is, it is still the cheapest and the most liquid stablecoin when it comes to on and off ramps. So sometimes you might have a banking partner, for example, if we're going to settle in Hong Kong. So we have an Amazon use case, right? So Amazon's main payment partner is trying to integrate our solution to settle with their suppliers in Asia. So normally Amazon would go from Amazon US to a Barclays account in UK, and from UK they would do the fiat operations, fiat FX operations, and those FX would go and settle in the bank Barclays or HSBC in Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong they would distribute to their Asia suppliers, various parts of mainland China and Southeast Asia. So with us, they can just go directly from their US account to a Hong Kong bank, because we have a partner in Hong Kong that also is a partner of Circle, where we have USDC liquidity that can transact into fiat liquidity immediately in USD or HKD. So Circle also gives us that kind of a larger, very liquid network where these swaps are and on-off ramps are quite effective and efficient and cheap. But it doesn't mean that our platform doesn't support other stablecoins. Very soon, we'll be announcing, a few other stablecoins that can work on our ecosystem. And I think, even though I strongly believe, a bit biased because we're also a US company, USDC will have dominance when it comes to USD stablecoins. And if anything, it might even surpass the Tether's volume in about a year or two, just because of the large networks and the banks they will plug into due to the regulatory compliance, I think, strength that they have. There's still going to be a lot of different stable coins for different use cases and for different networks that are more suitable, and our platform will support all of those.
I think a pretty complex flow for people who, maybe for like retail users thinking about sending money from A to B, but in reality, this is the actual flow of funds that go through from bank A in country A to intermediate bank, correspondent bank, and then bank B in country B. And there's like sometimes maybe even a week in delay. Let's talk about Huma. So ARF provides the financing, which is the B2B side. And Huma is launching a new product. So right now, if you go to Huma, you can see a couple of vaults and you can invest in them, but you have to go through KYC, KYB. So, and it's restricted to people who pass this. I heard that Huma will be launching a new stable token. So I'm curious to learn more and would love to share that with our audience.
Today, Huma protocol powers multiple use cases. ARF is our own use case at this point. It's the largest cross-border payment use case, across the PayFi ecosystems, and has done, more than $3 billion of volume for us. And then there are stablecoin backed card use cases. We're going to grow those use cases as well. And we were one of the first to pilot a fully stable backed card network with rain cards, and we're going to be doing more of that. And then there are more and more T+0 use cases, like the Amazon use case that's coming our way, that we're going to be putting those on the network as well. So with all of those, today the way to go and participate in these projects and benefit from the yield, as I mentioned, we can easily generate double-digit yield on these solutions, and we have a lot of demand for these solutions. People had to go through a KYC, KYB process because these were all permissioned and securitized products in terms of the asset, and we did that because we want to provide people the most legitimate and the most secure form of the asset, and in a bit more institutional way, because our first set of LPs were more institutional LPs. And what we realized is there's so much demand from retail for this PayFi yield and for the yield on the Huma platform. Every time you open new pools, faster than the institutions can onboard a lot of accredited investors, and have been filling the pools. And it's very hard to keep the pools open because they get filled very quickly. And that made us basically realize that we have missed this demand, and we're building full permissionless solution right now that combines all of this. And again, the product is quite complicated because of that segmentation of the different use cases. We're building a very, very simple interface that's permissionless, where you can just go and choose between two modes: classic mode, ape mode. Classic mode gives you the double-digit yield plus the Huma points and token rewards, and then the ape mode, if you want to ape into Huma, is going to give you 0 stablecoin yield, but it's going to maximize your points and token rewards. So you'll choose between the two, and then there's going to be different multipliers depending on which community you're coming from, referrals, and your OG status. So if you've been an OG on the platform, you'll get some multipliers, and it's going to be a super simple permissionless system where the system is going to go and optimize all that money by distributing it to different use cases, making sure the utilization is as close to 100% as possible, and get as much yield with the lowest risk exposure possible, and distribute that yield to the permissionless LPs. So that's going to be our biggest, I think, product launch so far. We're so excited. And then the resulting token you have is going to be called the PayFi strategy token. Think about it as like a ultimate LP token of the PayFi ecosystem. All that yield is going to be accumulating in this token, and we're going to list this token first on Jupiter. So it's going to be 100% liquid from day one, which is I think amazing for a real world use case like this. And I think people need that kind of a yield. Like if you look at today DeFi, the yields are all on the floor again, right? So I think when people can hold something that's sustainable, double-digit yield, it can even like replace, people's savings accounts and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So it will be like a JLP token, but like the number goes up, and yeah. So
exactly. This is going to be very, very much integrated and intermingled with JLP.
Nice. And will the underlying assets be separately invested? By people who want to choose like exposure per asset, or
no? So that's something we are thinking about later on. It's going to be an automated strategy basically behind this token that invests in different PayFi pool opportunities within the Huma protocol and within the PayFi ecosystem. It's going to be automated because there are different type of on-demand needs for different PayFi use cases, and it's very hard for people to make that distinction. And sometimes the demand for something goes up, and then sometimes the demand for that same thing goes down, but demand for another use case goes up. So to optimize it fully and to get the maximum utility from this, it's going to be an automated strategy.
How should people interact with Huma if they're interested in learning more? Like before, we're all very excited for this new product to come out, but what is the timeline like before the product launches live? How can people get involved?
So there's a lot of exciting things happening and a lot of announcements that you will hear. So today, I think a few days ago, our pools again got filled. So people want to go and participate. Follow us first on Twitter. Everything we do, we are extremely transparent, and everything will be on Twitter before we launch new pools. So go on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. There's an LFG voting coming up with Jupiter. So as you know, the Trump token was launched on the LFG stack, and we're excited to be one of those big launches on LFG.
Nice.
So there's going to be LFG vote happening soon, and there's going to be more announcements about that LFG participation and how people can participate in the upcoming token launch. So that's going to be communicated on our Twitter as well. If they want to participate even deeper, we have a Telegram community and a Discord community that's quite active. They can join our Telegram and Discord, and all of our team members are active on those platforms. They can write to us, and we'll be happy to talk about anything related to PayFi and Huma. And as the permissionless launches in April, so like late March, early April is the time frame for the permissionless. Obviously, everybody is welcome to participate in that launch and take it to the next level.
Nice, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on ChillCast, and thank you all for listening in. We're super excited to see what Huma brings to the market in a segment that is much needed for more products to come. So yeah, super exciting times, and looking forward to using Huma as a user.
在此提醒大家，所有内容均不构成投资建议，都是我跟瑶瑶作为行业知识研究的产出，还有嘉宾的言论也是他们的个人言论，希望大家做自己的研究。
道路千万条，安全第一条，做自己的研究，让我们增强知识，然后在链上开心玩耍。欢迎关注安娜和瑶瑶 Talk， 然后我们会有更多行业一线前沿的资讯跟大家进行分享。非常感谢。